Best thing that's ever happened to you financially. Go.
Easy. Sold my car on Carvana. Amazing offer.
Really? I hit 200 on a scratcher.
Did the scratcher come to your house and hand you a check?
No.
How many scratchers did you hit to get that? I hit a button on Carvana.com once.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like the lottery, except you always win.
Not like the lottery at all, actually.
Exactly. Inexplicably good. Offers worth bragging about. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Real Salt Lake facing Tigres tonight, the first of 3 games in group play in the League's Cup. 8 o'clock at America First Field tonight. We're joined right now by Kurt Schmid, Real Salt Lake's Chief Soccer Officer. Kurt, good morning. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning. Thanks.
Kurt, before we talk about Tigres, let's talk about RSL. It sounds like you're getting at least a few guys back. That was a pretty shorthanded club you were running out there, but it seems like the arrow's up a little bit, at least for a couple guys.
Yeah, we're getting a few guys back healthy. We're still missing a few, but we're testing the depth and the next guy up, and they got to step in and perform at this point.
Yeah, I think you would be testing the depth even if you had everybody, right? Because you got a whole bunch of games. Trey Fitzgerald the other day was telling me all the games in such a short span of time, which automatically tests the depth.
Yeah, and there's certainly some rotation there, and that impacted some of the lineup decisions on the weekend as well, given the short turnaround to today for the League's Cup. So, we're trying to make sure we keep guys fresh and healthy as much as possible and put out as strong a lineup as we can for each game.
Correct me if I'm wrong about the dates, but I think you got about a month left in the transfer window here. And I'm curious, as you go through the depth, partly because you're rotating, partly because injuries are forcing you, how much this is helping you make roster decisions for now and for whatever you'll do in the winter. Is this, I don't know if I should characterize it as midterms or finals, but either way, for a lot of players, this is a pretty important stretch, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it certainly gives guys, a lot of guys chances that they might not otherwise have, right? And you see some guys step in, whether that's, guys like Zach Booth, guys like, Juan Arias, who we just, ended up bringing in on a permanent deal. Phil Quinn stepped in and done well. We've seen Sava Lobjanidze come in and add some minutes off the bench. So, it's really an opportunity for those guys to come in and show what they can do. And like you said, whether that's decisions for now or really more for the younger guys, decisions for the future and how we see them penciling in down the road, I think those are important opportunities.
Speaking of the younger guys, how does Gozo compare to some of the younger guys that you've had over the years?
I mean, Gozo very favorably, and I think one key area, which is the adaptability he's shown every time he's been challenged and tested and stretched at a new level, his ability to grow to meet that challenge and his capacity to do that in a repeated sense has been really, really good. And that's sort of an intangible element that every, talented young player that's going to, progress needs to have. Obviously, physically he's got some abilities that are special in terms of his high intensity capacity and his speed and his acceleration, those things. And, he's got something else that is, difficult to teach, which is just, having that nose for the goal. He has a bit of a single-mindedness about him that, every time he gets the ball, for better or worse, he thinks about how he can try and score a goal. And I think there's times when that can be frustrating, certainly with young players. But I think there's an element of danger to that draws, and attracts attention, which not only lets him create for himself with his abilities, but also creates some space for others and lets them have opportunities that they might not otherwise have.
The Jazz hit somewhat unexpectedly on a good young player. It was probably 20 years ago now. And I remember hearing trade rumors, and I remember asking somebody in the organization who had a role kind of like you, and he laughed. He says, "Oh, yeah, we're getting calls all the time. And they're all ridiculous. Everybody's trying to rip me off like I'm stupid. We're not trading that guy for 2 second-round picks. There's nothing serious." And I'm wondering, in the world of soccer, there's so many players and so many clubs. In the NBA, there's 30, so there's time to do the dance because you're really only talking to 29 other clubs. Is there that kind of time in soccer? The offers that come in for these guys, I mean, we hear the speculation about Luna and Gozo and whoever else moving. Do you get real bit, or do you feel like sometimes people are wasting your time trying to rip you off? And, yeah, they're talks, but it's ridiculous and they're not serious. I'm wondering how much of that you have to put up with.
Yeah, I think it's also a different animal from the standpoint of the ecosystem, and the ecosystem in our sport is so huge, and our place in it is so much different than it is in basketball, let's say, right? So I think in basketball you've got a good young player, and there's every reason to believe that you can hold on to that player and he can become a career franchise player. I think in MLS it's obviously a tougher task to do that. I think it's possible, and this club especially has had some players become club legends and stay here for a long time. But I think a lot of really talented young players, they do have a dream to test themselves in Europe, in the Champions League or the Premier League or La Liga or what have you. And so there's always going to be that impetus where that you are likely going to have to make this decision at some point, and they are going to go. And so really it's a question of timing and like you said, price. And so, yeah, I think there's still a lot of teams that are looking at MLS as a bargain league, and, some prominent transfers recently have contributed to that situation. Alex Freeman being one, Obed Vargas being another, Sebastian Berhalter who just moved to Middlesbrough. I think there's been some contractual situations that have driven sort of lower price points on those guys, and that's maybe driving a false narrative about MLS players. But so it's you get a lot of interest and calls of teams that aren't likely to meet a valuation or evaluation of him. But those don't last long. But there's enough serious interest, in him as well that there can be some serious conversations about what that value is, and when it's likely to be met.
A lot of times, even in college level now, certainly at the pro level, when you ask about a team, and they'll tell you that it's down the schedule. We're just focused on whatever. Like in college football now, we want to ask about BYU plays Notre Dame, but they'll tell you, they're focused on Utah Tech. Okay, you're going to kill Utah Tech, but nevertheless, that's the standard pat answer that you get. How did you guys handle the scouting with the team in this situation with the game you have now versus the other stuff? Because it seemed like it would be, if you didn't get a head start on it, it'd be a quick turnaround to try to get as much information as you could, basically. Less than 72 hours later, getting back out on the field?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think from a mental standpoint, we keep the players focused on the next match. And I think, especially in this situation, given they're two different competitions, I think the focus of the players was certainly on the league match on Saturday. And now it shifts afterwards to Tuesday, to today. But the staff has a really good division of labor where they sort of, they sort of alternate and step past each other. And while one guy's preparing for the next game, the other one already starts on the game after that, and then they sort of rotate. And so I think from a coaching staff and a staff preparation standpoint, there's a really good rotation and division of labor that makes sure we get all the work done, even on short turnarounds. But, Pablo's job and our job is obviously to keep the players focused on performing in the next game to their highest level and not to look past them and be focused on another one. And I think that's been successful so far.
Meet Keith, loving dad, board game champ, bus driving pro.
I drive 65,000 miles in my bus each year. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. Like how there are some things I simply can't see. On my route the other day, a car tried to sneak past me and ends up right in my blind spot. I turned slowly, so accident avoided. But no car should be in the blind spot for a 40,000-pound bus. It's our roads. It's our safety.
Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Historically, Tigres is awesome, and they have a massive fan base. They've won lots of league championships. They were in a Club World Cup final a few years ago, which was a big deal because nobody from this part of the world gets to do that, and they pulled it off. But this season is going poorly for them. They've lost 2 of their first 3. They've only got 1 point. They've given up 8 goals in 3 games. That's a large number right there. What opportunity is there for RSL to attack? What have you seen from them defensively that they've given up 8 goals in 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, look, they certainly have an older goalkeeper. He's still performing well, or at least has been, and but there's no denying that could catch up at any time. But look, I think these types of games are different competition. I think they're opportunities for a team. If a team's in poor form in the league like that, it gives them a fresh start and a reset. And so, we can't really worry about whatever they're doing in Liga MX. That kind of has no bearing on whatever they're going to do tonight, because, they'll look at it as a fresh start and say, like, look, that's the league. This is a tournament. Let's go win this tournament. And we're all on a level playing field now. So I think they're going to come out. They're obviously loaded with talent. No matter, who they put out there, be, first 11, mix, second 11, whatever they want to put out there, they have a ton of talent, a ton of resources at their disposal. And so we know that it's a tough game. It's going to be dangerous, but it's also a different style of play, from MLS games. And it's a little more possession based and maybe a little less transitional, or can be less transitional at times, although sometimes these games can open up a bit. But so that'll be a challenge on our guys' front, and they're not as familiar with us and us with them. So there's going to be parts of the opening minutes of this game where both teams are feeling each other out a little bit and trying to see where the weaknesses are. So it's going to be entertaining from that standpoint. But yeah, I think you throw form out the window when you start a new competition like this.
How much more money do teams from Mexico have than MLS teams? What is the financial gap like these days? Or in some cases with some clubs, has it been closed? Because obviously in both leagues, there's probably some payroll disparity.
Yeah, I would think actually it's a nuanced answer. I think if you look at sort of a median club in each league, I actually think MLS is either on an even playing field or maybe even a bit ahead of sort of the median in Liga MX. But when you look at the top end of Liga MX and the giants in that league and the historical big money clubs and powerhouses, they are spending on a different level than the vast majority of our leagues. I think there is a lot made of the spending disparity within MLS, and obviously, there are moments when clubs like Miami, or in the past it's been LA, have really outstripped the rest of the league. But for the most part, in relation to other leagues in the world, our league from top to bottom has a pretty tight spread, whereas most other leagues have a pretty big disparity from top to bottom. And so I think Liga MX is similar in that respect, where, I think, and you've seen this in League Cup in the past, is when, outside of those top clubs, I think MLS has been very competitive and come out ahead a lot against some of the mid and lower tier Liga MX clubs. But the top end is still really difficult to compete with. They stockpile a ton of talent. They can essentially field a team of 11 DPs, and obviously we're limited in what we can do there. And, they're not, from a financial standpoint, if they have the money, they can spend it, whether that's a center forward or a center back or a goalkeeper or whatever it can be. So, it's always a challenge there to compete with them on a financial level. But I think there's ways to try to make up some of that ground on the field and with some of the player development that we work on here in our league.
Last thing before we let you go here, who does Tigres look like in Major League Soccer? And maybe it's a composition of a couple different teams, the way they defend and attack. Are there any comparisons?
No, nobody.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a different style. And so it's not really, at least from our player standpoint, it's not super useful to say it's just like, whatever, like, our last few games, just like LAC or it's just like Portland or anything like that. I think it's just a different style, and, it's something that you have to sort of play these teams over almost a period of years and almost build up like an institutional knowledge of playing against sort of, Mexican and Central and South American teams.
Kurt, good luck tonight. Good luck in the Leagues Cup, and thanks for coming on the show for a few minutes.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, Kurt Schmid, Real Salt Lake's Chief Soccer Officer, joining us right here on The Zone.
I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
He said Gozo has a nose for the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a question. I'm going to gift you this.
Okay.
So you can go with Nozo, Gozo.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Use it.
A little rhyme?
Yeah. He's Nozo, Gozo.
Gozo, Nozo, how to score.
If you got a nose for the ball.
Nozo, Gozo.
And you hear that. He's got a knack for rebounding.
Mm-hmm.
He's got whatever. You hear that.
No, absolutely.
And when you hear that, it's something that it's hard to really put into words as far as a definition, but you know what that means. And that's good for this youngster to be able to have someone who has been around the game for a long time to be able to say that. Whatever that might be, he has a whatever for whatever in whatever sport you're saying it. It's usually a high compliment.
Yes, and it is a compliment, and he definitely has it. He's scored a couple goals this year that you always talk about this, and it's so true. It's what MLS is really trying to capitalize on. You know, it's you go with friends. It's a good summer night. You like sports. You kind of like it, but you're not that into it and all that. But you want that moment where someone does something. You said this about goals. Not all, but a lot of goals are real. Like there's a skill check in there that just makes you say, wow,
Hardcore.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was. Yock, maybe you remember. It was a home game, and RSL, it was a day game. It was early in the year. And they were scoring in the north end. And he got the ball kind of at the top of the 18-yard box, and he took a poor touch, and the ball popped up on him. And it's like he volleyed to himself, and he turned as kind of a sidewinder, and he just lashed it into the back of the net, right?
Lash!
The place erupted.
As they should.
It was the skill check you talk about. Like, there's a level of skill there.
Few folks can do that.
You know enough about sports, even if you're not hardcore soccer, you're like, well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And asked about it afterwards, he's like, did you mean to do that, or did it just it just happened and you reacted? And he has enough confidence in himself. He goes, yeah, that was a bad touch. I made a mess of that ball. I had to do something with it, so I gave that a shot. I mean, he just that is not what most players are going to think or do, and it's not what they're going to say later to admit, yeah, I screwed that up. But then, no problem. You know, I mean, it's a little bit like a home run hitter. You love your baseball analogy. It's like a home run hitter. Like, you fooled a little bit. You shouldn't have swung at that pitch. It's dropping out of the strike zone, but you go down and get it, and then you hit it out of the park. It's like most people can't
golf it out.
Most people can't do that, but some people can.
Freddie Freeman said the other day. He said he will compliment guys on hits when they get to first base, and he'll have a little interaction with them, and he'll say, "Hey, that was pretty sweet." And somebody asked him, "Why do you do that? You know, that's you shouldn't be doing that." He said, "Yeah, I appreciate great plays, and to get a hit off a major league pitcher is a hard thing to do."
It's this kind of same thing that Andrew Luck did when he was playing quarterback in the NFL. Guys would sack him and be like, "That was a great play, dude," and they'd kind of be like, "What are you doing, bro?"
I don't have any problem with that.
I think it's great.
The late great Steve Klauke. And I was talking to him one night before a Jazz game, and I'm like, "I've been doing this a long time, Steve. Like, how have things changed?" And he goes, "There's way more than negative. There's now so much of how this person failed and that person messed up." He says, like, people, like, it's like you can't back into a championship. And we got to this high level. It's not about what somebody does well. It's about what somebody does poorly. And one thing you said about Hot Rod, the thing you appreciate about Hot Rod, and I've always tried to remember this, is like Hot Rod, if the opposing team made some great play, like Hot Rod got excited.
Yeah.
Because there aren't many people who can do that. It's hard to do. And if you love the sport, you should appreciate any time you see that sport, whatever it is, played at a really high level. So I love that Freeman does that.
Yeah.
Because there are times you're like, I mean, have you ever gone into a batting cage? I remember once when I was a kid, and I could probably hit like, I don't even know how old I was, but I could probably hit in like a 60-mile-an-hour cage.
18?
I was in my 20s. And we put the cage, I was there with a couple friends, and we put the cage on, I put it on 80, and another kid put it on 90. And we were young, and we were laughing out of the cage like, whoa, that's going to dent the chain link, man. We cannot be doing that. I don't know what we were, like 12 or whatever, I don't even know. And so now, a major league pitcher with major league command and the way they can make a ball break, and you get a hit, he's right. That's a hard thing to do. And Gozo has a couple of those goals this year where it's like, well, not everybody can do that. So, but I just don't know how serious the offers are. I mean, they really value him. But at some point, what Kurt was alluding to here is if a player really wants to go, well, then they just don't sign their next contract. And when it's up, they can go and you get nothing for them. So at some point, even if you think they're worth $5 million, you might have to take 2. Or if you think they're worth 10, you might have to take 6 because you're running out of time on their contract. And Gozo definitely wants to go. I mean, he wants to test himself. So it's going to happen at some point. The question is when. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. More in a moment. Bob Nightingale's got baseball fans fired up. We got more college football on the way. Stay with us.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana.
Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.